¿Qué lo que mi gente? What is up? Welcome back to my channel into a Cultures of the Americas video. Today's video is actually a combined request that I got from two people. One was a request to do a video talking about Anacaona, and another one was a request that I got to talk about Sebastian Lemba. So since their stories kind of happened around the same period within the history of Hispaniola, I decided to do a combined video for both. Anacaona, meaning golden flower, was a Taino cacique or chief, born in what is now Leogane, Haiti, into a family of chiefs. She was sister to Boachillo, chief of Jaragua, and her husband was Caonabo, chief of the nearby territory of Maguana, located in present-day Dominican Republic. Her brother and her husband were two of the five highest caciques who ruled the island when the Spaniards arrived in 1492. She was celebrated as a composer of ballads and narrative poems called areitos. Suspected of having organized the destruction of La Navidad, the first Spanish settlements in northwestern Hispaniola, Caonabo was captured by Alonso de Ojeda in 1493 and shipped to Spain, dying in a shipwreck during the journey. When Caonabo was captured, Anacaona went to live with her brother Boachillo, in whose government she had great influence. Although the Europeans had been killing Taino for years, Anacaona realized her people could not compete on a military footing and established a different policy to that of her husband, one of outward appeasement and integration. Anacaona's approach would be similar to other royalty around the world, flattery and intermarriage. Each time a European dignitary, usually Columbus's brother, came to visit, she adjusted the schedule to stop by her storehouses, that she could shower the Europeans with gifts and have legions of women dance for them. Her plan to tighten bonds through marriage took root with the approach of young Spaniard Fernanda Guevara. Smitten by Anacaona's daughter Iguemota, Guevara wanted to marry her. However, his plans were stifled by his superior officer who was against the marriage. The two lovers never married. Guevara's superior was ultimately the victor in their struggles, and Guevara was imprisoned and possibly killed. After founding the city of Santo Domingo in 1498, Bartholomew Columbus, brother of Christopher Columbus, went with his troops to Jaragua in order to subdue Boachillo and extend to his territory a mandated tribute in gold. However, Boachillo, advised by Anacaona, decided to recognize the sovereignty of the Catholic monarchs instead of fighting, and committed to pay the tribute with products such as cotton, bread, corn, and fish. Anacaona became chief of Jaragua after her brother's death. Anacaona's high status was probably strengthened by elements of matrilineal descent in the Taino society. In 1503, the governor of the island, Nicolás de Ovando, sent word to Anacaona that he was going to Jaragua for a friendly visit. He had grown suspicious that Anacaona, who had done nothing but give money, food, and friendship to the Europeans, even after years of them consistently murdering her people, was plotting to overthrow him. This visit had the pretext of improving the relations between the conquerors and the Indians. Before this visit, Anacaona gathered numerous caciques from the area and offered Ovando and his companions a great reception with dances and parties, the same which she had done years before for Bartholomew Columbus. Ovando pretended to reciprocate the honors with which he was received and invited Anacaona and the other caciques to witness a military drill in his honor. The Indians assembled in a large main house of wood and thatched roof, built to house Ovando and his companions. Those on horseback and those on foot began to surround them, and once Ovando gave the signal, the soldiers turned on the Taino. The cavalry, with spears and swords, violently attacked the Taino, setting fire to the house and killing many of them. Diego Mendez, one of the protagonists of the fourth voyage of Columbus, lived in Jaragua at the time. He stated in his testament that 84 caciques died. Among the survivors were the little Taino prince Guarucoya, nephew of Anacaona, who was later handed over to Fray Bartolome de las Casas and who will later be known as Enriquillo, Iguemota, the daughter of Anacaona, Mencilla, the granddaughter of Anacaona, and the tribal leader Atuey, who later escaped to Cuba. Once in Cuba, he organized the resistance, but was captured in battle and killed. Anacaona was transferred to Santo Domingo, and 3 months later, she was tried and sentenced to death, hanged in a public square in 1503, a punishment that was applied at that time to those accused of conspiracy. She was 29 years old. Ovando's actions were one of the most inexplicable and cruel acts of his rule, which also led to his downfall. The impact of this punishment quickly reached Queen Isabel I of Castile, who promptly dismissed him from her deathbed upon hearing of his actions. Anacaona's immortalization in the intertwining histories of both Haiti and the Dominican Republic has resulted in the use of her name for various places in both countries. Many in Haiti claim her as a significant icon in early Haitian history and a primordial founder of their country. Renowned Haitian-American author Edwidge Danticat wrote an award-winning novel from the Royal Diaries series named Anacaona, Golden Flower, Haiti, 1490, in dedication to the fallen chief, and a more recent novel has appeared about Anacaona, called Haiti's Taino Queen, by Mars N. Romain. She is immortalized in music by Haitian folk singers Ansi and Yole Deros in the song Anacaona, as well as Puerto Rican salsa composer Tite Cure Alonso in his song Anacaona. Cheo Feliciano's first track of his first solo album, named Cheo, also has a track called Anacaona. And now, everyone, we will move on to the story of Sebastian Lemba. Sebastian Lemba was an African slave rebel leader who led a prolonged maroon rebellion in the colony of Santo Domingo. Believed to have been from the Congo, he was a member of the Lemba tribe, hence the name. The Lemba being a Bantu ethnic group which is native to Zimbabwe in South Africa. Lemba was also a kind of spiritual association of wealthy merchants based in the Congo. Lemba's name hints that he was a businessman caught in an in-Bengala slave raid. If so, his organizational skills may have played a role in his leadership, which the Spaniards admitted was quote-unquote extremely able. When Lemba was a young man, he was captured and taken to companies in France and Spain around the year 1525 and was eventually transferred to the island of Hispaniola. Lemba had been a slave on one of the island's many sugarcane plantations, as this was the era when the first commercial sugarcane industry in the New World was on the rise, and Spaniards were clamoring to bring in more and more African slave laborers. Lemba became a leader and a defender of the rights of slaves. Lemba and his men, who were said to be up to 400, were among the many African cimarrones who joined the rebellion of the Taino cacique Enriquillo from 1519 to 1534. Although Enriquillo finally negotiated a peace treaty with the Spanish crown for himself and his people, Lemba refused to accept the terms and refused to stop rebelling against the Spanish. In 1532, he led an act of resistance that through the years became a true rebellion. They escaped and went to the mountainous interior of the island and for several years fought against the Spanish authorities. Far more vengeful than Enriquillo had been, Lemba broke his troops into small mobile bands that pillaged sugar plantations and mills for 16 years. Lemba and these men operated like an army. They went through villages, ransacking and attacking the Spaniards while liberating other slaves. So many slaves were inspired to revolt by his actions that the Archdeacon of Santo Domingo claimed in 1541 that the number of guerrillas in the hills was greater than the number of Spaniards in Hispaniola. Only 10 of Hispaniola's 34 sugar mills were open. The rest had been shut down by rebel slaves. On September 25, 1547, Lemba was captured. The exact details of his death are unclear. Some sources say it happened in San Juan de la Maguana or elsewhere in the south of the country, but there are some say that he died in Santo Domingo, where he was captured and taken after he was killed in one of the city gates between Fort San Pedro and La Puerta del Conde. Within months of Lemba's death, officials were complaining to the court that rebels were killing and robbing Spaniards just 9 miles outside of Santo Domingo. There was also a huge rebellion in La Vega, perhaps incited by some of Lemba's own men who had escaped the Spanish patrol, and other African slave captains such as De Guillo de Ocampo and Juan Vaquero remained on the loose, causing havoc across the island. The actions of Sebastian Lemba have a particularly historical significance, as he was one of the first African slaves to begin the fight against slavery throughout the Americas. Lemba is revered as a national hero in the Dominican Republic with a statue in his honor. And that is it for this video, everyone. I hope that you all enjoyed it. I'm glad I was finally able to get to at least 2 of you guys' requests. I will be working on the other ones, and definitely stay tuned for my next video. Bye!